Hello, welcome to Baltic World. My name is Crispin. A hell of a lot to update you on with Ukraine today, but first, a couple of my Patreon subscribers have reached out and informed me that Patreon has shut down some campaigns to support Ukraine's defenders, giving some BS excuse about policies. Now, while Patreon protests that they support the Ukrainians, the practical effect of their actions here is to advantage the Russian army. And my Patreons have said, look, I don't want to fund through this platform. And I totally understand why. In fact, this is not Patreon's first outrage. So by all means, stop with that platform. I will confer with Charlene and this week. We will switch to another model and I'll let everybody know. It's totally unacceptable. Patreon has not got the memo. Everyone else is rallying, as we'll see, behind Ukraine. Patreon is falling way behind and doesn't deserve your business. Yesterday, I didn't get a video out because Charlene and I filmed the Week in Review to try and keep some normalcy with the channel. However, a lot of developments in the last 48 hours, so let's get into it. First, the international context. The global response has been stronger, faster, and more unified than I ever thought possible. All 27 EU countries, not most, all have pledged to provide military assistance, money, supplies, medical equipment, other specialized technologies to Ukraine, and that is already flowing. It includes Germany, which has historically been reluctant to do anything like that. It's providing 1,500 missiles to Ukraine, both Stingers and anti-tank weapons. This is on top of the $6 billion that Biden is pushing through Congress to provide military aid to the Ukrainians. This is also on top of what Canada, Britain, Australia, other countries around the world are providing to Ukraine right now. Other countries and players have also taken action. Turkey, much to my surprise, has closed the Bosphorus to Russian military vessels. So Russian ships from the Mediterranean will not be permitted to go and reinforce in the Black Sea. Even Elon Musk has pledged to put more Starlink facilities over Ukraine, allowing the Ukrainians to have satellite access to the internet, despite whatever jamming Russia seeks to do, and also allow Ukrainians to project information into Russia in Russian, letting them know what's happening there and encouraging the Russian people to rise up. But then the trump card. Over the last 36 hours, one by one, countries have relented to cutting Russia off from the SWIFT payment system. It is now unanimous. This means that Russia will no longer be able to transact with foreign banks anywhere in the world. This comes on top of the direct sanctions against Russian banks. This will drown the Russian economy. Even Chinese banks, which has wholeheartedly supported Russia to this point, is fearful of secondary sanctions and is starting to restrict foreign borrowings for Russian goods. Individual companies, Facebook, Google, have shut down Russian advertising. Various airlines have ceased partnerships with Aeroflot. And then just ordinary individuals in their everyday purchasing are boycotting Russian products, checking the back of labels to see where things come from to ensure that they're not providing money to the Russian government. Meanwhile, far from fleeing the country or being overthrown, Zelensky has become a global icon. There is a now immortalized phone exchange between Zelensky and the Americans. The United States are saying, look, Kiev is about to be under siege. Russia's going to be attacking. We need to get you out. We will extract you from Ukraine. To which Zelensky replied, the fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride. He's published a series of self-made videos on his phone to challenge Russian misinformation and propaganda, and he's always upbeat, positive, optimistic, filling his fellow Ukrainians with determination and courage. Totally antithetical to what Putin expected, which was for the Ukrainian people to rise up and throw out the Zelensky government, welcoming the Russians in with open arms. This brings me to the military situation. Before I go on, I must stress, the war has been running well under a week. The huge preponderance of Russian military is still being brought to bear. Russia could still absolutely achieve victory. The worst of the fighting is yet to come. That said, despite Russia's territorial gains and enormous bloodshed, It's telling that the Russian military haven't achieved any of their core objectives at this stage of the conflict. As my friend and elder strategist Edward Lutt would put it, and I quote, "Zelensky did not flee, the government did not collapse, the armed forces did not dissolve, Russian forces did not seize every city, and Kiev's population is not obediently waiting Russian rule." End quote. Just yesterday, Ukraine downed 2 massive IL-76 aircraft, each carrying complements of between 100 and 200 paratroopers. Not only is this tactical incompetence on the Russian side, but it's telling for what it represents. Despite days of relentless bombing, Russia still hasn't suppressed Ukrainian air defenses. So far, the best estimates are that Russia has lost around 80 tanks, over 500 other combat vehicles, 17 aircraft, and thousands of troops. To put that in perspective, between 2003 and 2008, the United States lost 4,400 personnel in 5 years of fighting. Russia has lost similar numbers in opening days. That isn't to say that Ukraine hasn't suffered worse. Of course, it's impossible to put true numbers down given civilian and military casualties. Enormous, staggering losses are being experienced on both sides. But even beyond the combat losses, Russia is experiencing logistical wastage on a huge scale. Whole convoys of armor have been known to get lost, run out of fuel, and be forced to surrender simply because they're left stranded. Russian morale is not upbeat. Many don't understand why they're fighting. They're being mocked openly in the streets by Ukrainian civilians, insulting them in perfect Russian. And the Russian people at home did not sign up for this. They were not consulted. We're seeing mass protests in the streets. Russian soldiers abroad not knowing why they're there. Russians at home knowing that this is all Putin's delusions of grandeur. And Ukrainians fighting bitterly for their homeland street to street, buoyed by the encouragement of its leaders and the support of the global community. As for the battles, it's all the cities. Kiev is experiencing bitter street-to-street fighting, suffering and enduring 24-hour bombardment, but so far the Ukrainians are holding. Even in Kharkiv, in Ukraine's northeast, where Russia's military enjoys every conceivable tactical advantage, Ukraine's valiant defenders have mounted a stout defense. Despite some breakthroughs in certain parts of the city, that fighting is still continuing longer and more bitterly than it has any right to hold out. So in terms of Russia's position, as the logistical problems mount, Russia's economy tanks, foreign support flows like a river towards the Ukrainian defenders as well as foreign international fighters, the problems for Russia's military are only going to get worse. All that said, I remain deathly worried for Ukraine and the future conduct of this war. That's because so far Russian forces have held back using their most destructive and deadly weapons. Putin has not given himself any off-ramps. He knows that if Russia loses this war militarily, he's going to be swinging from a lamppost. So he can't afford to back down or pull back. He can only double down and escalate. That means we could reach a point soon where Russia's military are leveling whole city blocks in an effort to suppress the opposition. Things are going to get much worse before they get better. But so far, the Ukrainians have inspired the world, and the world is responding to act. I will keep everyone updated on a daily basis. Please follow this channel, hit the bell button so you get notified as soon as things come out. Share these videos so more people understand what's happening there, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.